Just like all the best things in the world, William Friedkin Sorcerer was released in 1977. Coming off the success and madness of The Exorcist, Friedkin saw Sorcerer as a quick stopgap until his next big gig came along. Little did he realise that he'd signed on for a film which contained the most big gig moment of his entire career. Sorcerer is an early example of a remake which is also a kind of soft reboot. It loosely copies The Wages of Fear, a French film from 1953, and I feel its odd renaming could be a reason for Sorcerer bombing at the box office. But that could also be because it was released in the exact same week of a tiny indie film you may have heard of called Star Wars? For those who may not know, Sorcerer is surprisingly and disappointingly not a film about a wizard.
How come no one says wizard anymore?
Instead, its plot follows a group of men who have fled to a small South American town to avoid probable death for their criminal misdemeanours in their home countries. To earn enough money to leave the dead-end town and start afresh, they take on a risky job: to transfer an old, unstable box of TNT 200 miles across the country in old trucks in order to help stem the flow of a burning oil leak. The ragtag band of desperate men must contend with bumpy cliffside roads, jungle passages, and in the film's standout scene, an old rickety wooden rope bridge across a storm-swelled river. One bump could set off the explosives, and it's...
Adios, muchachos.
I watched Sorcerer for the first time recently, and during this incredible bridge scene, there was one little question which kept niggling at me. How the fuck did they do that? So of course I looked it up, and now I know how they did it. Still don't really know how they did it. For this 10-minute scene, which by the way was not in Wages of Fear or the book that film was based on, the special effects crew built the entire bridge over a real river in the Dominican Republic. The bridge, which incorporated hydraulics and a multitude of safety features, cost a juicy
$1 million.
Then, with shooting about to begin, for the first time in the history of the area, drought hit, and the river below the bridge, which was once a dangerously fast torrent of water, was now little more than a trickle. Studio execs told Friedkin to ditch the entire sequence to stop the budget skyrocketing, and of course he replied with a perfectly measured and reasonable response of "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me!" Instead sending production designer John Box to go and find a replacement location. Box found the perfect location in Tuxtepec, Mexico, and the crew took apart their $1 million bridge and shipped it flat pack style all the way from the Dominican Republic and rebuilt it at the cost of another $1 million. Then, in a kind of cruel cosmic joke, the Papalopan River over which the scene was to be filmed also dried up in an unseasonal drought. But this wasn't the only stroke of bad luck to hit the crew in the new location. This rebuilt bridge had to be guarded 24 hours a day as superstitious locals threatened to blow it up, blaming the so-called intruders for cursing the area and bringing the drought. Then people started getting sick. A lot of the crew had gangrene. Friedkin himself was hit by a bout of malaria. And that wasn't all. According to Friedkin from a later interview, the bridge was rebuilt by 20 to 30 Mexican labourers. I was very friendly with them. There was one guy in particular I liked very much, and one day he whipped out a Federales badge. He was an undercover cop. He said, "Senor Bill, you have people on your crew who are doing drugs. You are a very nice man and I like you, otherwise I would arrest all of these people. But I like you, so I'm not going to arrest them, but they have to leave this country tomorrow." This included stuntmen, key grips, makeup artists and special effects guys, so I lost about 20 members of the crew. Friedkin also added that, "You should really smash the like button if you're enjoying this video." Thanks, Bill. Then of course came the filming on the bridge scene itself, and with no money left to relocate a second time, the magic of cinema trickery had to make it seem like the drying river was actually a torrent and that the unusually pleasant weather was a hellish storm. In addition to clever camera angles to disguise the fact the river was about as deep as a paddling pool, the production used piping and pumping equipment, rerouted water, and employed local beavers to build dams. Okay, I made that last bit up. Wind machines and giant hoses gave the impression of a monsoon, and a massive sprinkler system created an artificial rainstorm, which also obscured the low water levels. A concealed hydraulic system controlled the movement of the bridge and the trucks. And in a neat twist on the norm of special effects hiding the strings, the frayed ropes along the bridge's sides cleverly disguised supporting steel cables. There was a lot of trickery here, but we're still talking about water deep enough to drown in, and trucks that probably weighed a literal ton. As an extra precaution, the crew lashed the trucks to the bridge so that as it tilted and swayed, they wouldn't topple over. But these trucks weren't weebles, so they did wobble, and they did fall down into the river, often with actors and stuntmen inside them. Friedkin estimates this happened 7 or 8 times. he himself a victim when his shooting truck ended up in the drink. Roy Scheider, the film's main star, said it made filming Jaws look like a picnic. In his biography he said, "When I take a mountain road on two wheels, on a road with potholes the size of shell craters, that's the way it was. No one but Billy Friedkin could have persuaded me to take the insane chances I did, but when it was over and I looked at the rough footage, I knew it was worth it." Scheider also added, "I think it'll be like totally worth it if you hit that subscribe button." Thanks, Roy. Ultimately, this bridge sequence took months and a mostly unbudgeted $3 million to make. And most impressively,
no one died.
Sorcerer is an excellent film. Horror maestro Stephen King puts it as all-time #1, and Quentin Tarantino also hails it as one of his best. Friedkin and his crew absolutely went for broke and filmed something which will stand the test of time. Sorcerer is 45 years old, and it's impossible to tell that any trickery has been used. If the film was made today, this scene would be predominantly CGI, and none of today's pampered stars would put their lives on the line for the art, though I do reckon Tom Cruise would give it a shot. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Sorcerer and that bridge scene, and if you'd like more videos like this in the future, or even if you wouldn't. Thanks for watching.
Game over, man. It's game over.